Those of you that are here understand the importance of whistleblowers in terms of government oversight. I really don't think there's anything that is more important than whistleblowers, because if you look around, it is very clear that whistleblowers have made a difference time and time again in terms of ferreting out serious and significant problems in the federal government. I can look no further than Arlington and Dover, and I can give many other examples where the reason that problems were identified and the reason we had the ability to go in and correct problems was because somebody who worked there told someone. Someone who saw the problem said to themselves, I can't deal with this anymore. Someone has to do something about this. And that is the best instincts, and those are the instincts that we must protect. And a whistleblower that has reprisals against them is something that we cannot stand for in this government. And that's what this hearing is about. I am proud to have been active in working in this area since the time I came to the Senate. And there are changes that we have been able to make in the law as it relates to whistleblower protections. As many of you know, there are now proposals that have been put forth both in the Senate and in the House, and I think that they are deficient in a major way. And the way I think they're deficient is because they don't fully address those people who work for contractors. And that's why we're here today. Now, there's a dirty little secret that people like to ignore. And frankly, one of the reasons I voted against the Republican proposal last week on the extension of the payroll tax is because it was all about limiting federal employees, but didn't say a word about contractors. Anyone who thinks they're going to get at the problem of the growth of the federal government and the spending that is occurring in the federal government, if they think they can do that by leaving contractors out of the equation, they don't understand the federal government right now. Agency after agency, we have more contractors working for those agencies than we have federal employees. We have more contractors working at many agencies than we have federal employees. So if we are not including contractors in the protection of the whistleblower legislation, then we've got a huge problem here. If the whistleblowers that work for contractors don't have the same protections as federal employees, we are saying to contractors, we don't think wrongdoing by you is that important. We don't think waste and fraud and abuse that occurs in a contract capacity is as important as waste or fraud or violating rules or regulations or the law, that somehow your sins are not as worthy of being reported and protection for that reporter than the sins that may be occurring by people who directly work for the federal government. So I think it's really important that we expand the protections for whistleblowers to people who work for contractors. We have been able to do that in two important respects. Senator Collins and I sponsored an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act in 2008 that extends protections to whistleblowers for contractors that work for Department of Defense. We also did the same thing for contractors that were receiving any of the money under the Stimulus Act. So it's not that this is without precedent. We have now done it for stimulus dollars, and we've done it for contractors that work for DOD. Why not the rest of government? Why is this important to do with contractors who work for DOD and not with contractors that work for Department of Energy or contractors that work for, how about Homeland Security? I think we've got thousands and thousands and thousands. I'll never forget the day when I asked the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Chertoff, when I first arrived at the Senate, how many contractors worked there. He had no idea. He had no idea how many contractors worked at the Department of Homeland Security. Suffice it to say, I believe that there are more contractors that work for the Department of Homeland Security than there are employees. So that's what this hearing is about. I have introduced legislation, along with my friend Jim Webb, that will expand the protection of whistleblowers to any whistleblower, whether they are an employee or whether they're a federal contractor.